Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom. Let's take a look at the headlines. Council of State urges President Buhari to print more money or allow co-circulation. Federal government to set up 24 hours online real-time monitoring command center. Others. UN calls for immediate ceasefire in Syria to facilitate bringing aid to quake victims. Details of these stories and more in a moment. And to print more redesigned Naira notes or allow the new and old banknotes circulate concurrently to ease tension caused by scarcity of cash. The Council approved the Naira redesign policy of the CBN but faulted its implementation. Briefing State House correspondents after the Council meeting chaired by the President, the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, who was flanked by Governor Darius Ishaku of Taraba State and Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State, said that the Council illuminated the need for aggressive action by the CBN to ensure adequate supply of the Naira in the system for proper implementation of the policy. Echoing submission by the Council, Governor Ishaku stated that it proffered a number of suggestions to the President, particularly on the currency swap challenge, which dominated discussions following a debriefing from the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, and expressed the hope that President Muhammadu Buhari will take a decision soon by way of intervention. In another development, federal government has said it will set up a command center to provide 24-hour security surveillance as part of its efforts to ensure far-reaching security strategies for passengers, personnel and assets along the Abuja-Kaduna rail corridor and other rail corridors in the country. The Minister of Transportation, Muazu Jaji Sambo, gave the assurance at a meeting with members of the Nigerian Union of Railway Workers (NURW) today in Abuja. He also disclosed that a monitoring device would be installed in the train, which would enable the train captain view the rail tracks up to 10 kilometers ahead. Meanwhile, the federal government has approved 67 new broadcast licenses for radio and television stations across the country. The Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission, Balarabe Ilela, disclosed that 302 broadcast stations breached the National Broadcasting Commission (NBC) code in the last 2 years. Ilela called on broadcasters to continue to abide by the NBC Act, the Nigeria Broadcasting Code, the Electoral Act, and other extant laws that guide media operation to ensure that the general elections are free, fair, and credible. The Commission said it had deployed all the technical and operational facilities for the monitoring of the forthcoming general elections. Away from that, now the federal government has commenced the deployment of security agencies to filling stations across the country to enforce the use of point-of-sale POS machines and the acceptance of bank transfers at the various outlets. The government's directive to marketers came through the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority in a statement issued in Abuja by the agency's General Manager, Corporate Communications and Stakeholders Management, Kimchi Apollo. According to the statement, the government vowed to deal with oil marketers who reject POS machines or bank transfers from customers, stressing that the move became vital following reports that some filling stations were culpable as regards this development despite the severe cash crunch nationwide. In a related development, Central Bank of Nigeria today listed money bouquets as a form of naira abuse. The Apex Bank made this known in a flyer shared on its Twitter handle that listed forms of abusing the naira. Alongside money bouquet, other forms of abuse listed by the CBN were spraying, selling, squeezing, and defacing. In the meantime, Nigerians and bank customers are gripped with confusion and uncertainty over today's deadline by the Central Bank of Nigeria for the phasing out of the old naira notes. They are unsure if the deadline still remains or has been suspended following the Supreme Court injunction obtained by some northern governors. Recall that the Supreme Court had ruled that the deadline should be suspended pending the determination of the case brought before it by the governors of Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara states. The court had fixed February 15 to entertain the case. Meanwhile, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami, in a response to the suit, said the Supreme Court lacked jurisdiction on the matter. In a separate development, Kano State government has filed a lawsuit against the federal government at the Supreme Court over the naira redesign by the Central Bank of Nigeria. In a lawsuit, the Kano State Attorney General, through his lawyer Sunusi Musa, is arguing that President Muhammadu Buhari cannot direct the CBN to recall the old 200, 500 and 1,000 naira notes without first consulting the Federal Executive Council and the National Economic Council. The Kano government is seeking a court order to reverse the federal government's policy of recalling these banknotes, citing the adverse impact it would have on the economic well-being of over 20 million Kano citizens. It also seeks a mandatory order to compel the federal government to reverse the naira redesign policy, alleging that it violates the 1999 Constitution. In a related development, Court of Appeal sitting in Kano today sacked Muhammad Abacha as the People's Democratic Party PDP governorship candidate in Kano. The court set aside the judgment of a high court that recognized Abacha as the PDP flag bearer in the state. The court also ordered that Sadiq Wali, who was earlier recognized by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), remains the valid governorship candidate. Justice Usman Musale, who delivered the anonymous judgment with three-man panel, held that Abacha had a no locus standi to challenge the primary that produced Wali, since he never participated in the primary election. Meanwhile, Cross River State Governor Ben Ayade won at the Court of Appeal, Abuja Division, in an appeal filed by Cecilia Adams, a participant at the May 28 primary of the All Progressives Congress in the state. Earlier, the appellant had lost the suit at the Federal High Court Abuja, where she sought to challenge the candidature of Ayade for election into the National Assembly at the senatorial level. Cecilia had scored 0 votes at the said elections but refused to participate in the fresh APC primary conducted on 14th July 2022. The Cross River North Senatorial District towards the 2023 general elections, in a unanimous decision of the appellate court led by Justice Stephen Ada, in the appeal argued for Ayade by Mike Ozekome, the court upheld the decision of Justice Enhi Maha of the Federal High Court Abuja Division. In the meantime, the National Industrial Court has ordered the reinstatement of one Daniel Makolo to his former employer before he was summarily dismissed for service. Delivering the judgment, Justice E.I. Abwakoba ruled that Makolo should be reinstated without loss of rank or position. The justice further directed the Nigerian Immigration Service, which is the 4th defendant in the suit, to pay him all his outstanding salaries, emoluments, allowances, and other entitlements. On electoral matters now, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has insisted there will not be another extension of the deadline for the collection of permanent voter cards (PVCs) before the general elections. The Commission said it needs to move its staff away from the issuance of PVCs to other sectors that need attention ahead of the general elections. In an interview, the INEC National Commissioner and Chairman of Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, disclosed that the Commission will gather uncollected PVCs and deposit them at the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) until after the 2023 elections. Still on electoral matters, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has solicited the support of the Nigerian Bar Association in handling its numerous pre-electoral cases in courts across the country. The INEC chairman Mahmood Yakubu made the call when he hosted a delegation of the Nigerian Bar Association led by its president Yakubu Maigyao at the commission's headquarters Abuja. Yakubu said that INEC had been joined in 1,241 intra-party lawsuits in different courts of law as of February 6, not on elections conducted by INEC but on primaries conducted by political parties for the nomination of candidates for the 2023 general election. He added that some of the cases had gone to the Federal High Court, while some were before the Court of Appeal and others were before the Supreme Court. The INEC chairman requested the support of the NBA in handling some of the cases.
This on the 16th of July 2022. One of the things that I said in my inaugural speech is that we are going into the election year. And there is one thing that we owe Nigerians as members of the legal profession, either serving on the bench or at the bar, is sincere participation in the electoral process, as we are called upon to participate in the pre-election and post-election disputes, because those matters will certainly come before the courts, and it is our lot, it is our responsibility to participate in that process in the resolution of these disputes one way or the other. We can only help this nation provide direction and advance the cause of this nation if we do that honestly and sincerely in the interpretation of the laws and the implementation of those laws to the disputes that will come to the courts. And so, sir, we are here to say to you that the Nigerian Bar Association is solidly behind INEC, solidly behind your administration. And we will not allow anything that will taint this process as far as NBA is concerned happen. And any attempt by anyone or any group of persons to intimidate or harass INEC in the discharge of its constitutional responsibility, please, my chairman, just know that you can place a demand on INEC.
Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has told observers slated for this month and March 11 general elections that their job is only to monitor, observe, and report their findings, and not to interfere during the presidential, National Assembly, gubernatorial, and state assembly elections. INEC said that it is the electoral umpire and the only organ saddled with the responsibility of conducting the elections, while other support groups such as the local and internal observers will be there to assist the Commission with their reports and nothing else. The resident electoral commissioner (REC) in Enugu State, Chukwuemeka Chukwu, gave the charge while flagging off Action Aid's election observers training in Enugu State. In politics, the Director General of the People's Democratic Party Presidential Campaign Council in Rivers State, Abiye Sekibo, escaped assassination by the Whiskers on Thursday midnight. It was learned that gunmen dressed in police uniform opened fire on Sekibo's vehicle, a Land Cruiser bulletproof Jeep, at the Rainbow Town in Port Harcourt, where he went to inspect the venue of a proposed presidential rally of the party. Confirming the incident at a news briefing today, Sekibo said his car was riddled with bullets and the venue of the proposed rally set on fire, while policemen reportedly watched the inferno. Still in politics, the National Working Committee (NWC) of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) has expelled former governor of Enugu State Chimaroke Nnamani and 6 others over alleged anti-party activities. Recall that Nnamani was last month suspended by the party. The PDP NWC, at the end of its 566th meeting, disclosed this today in a statement by its National Publicity Secretary, Kola Olobondeon. According to the statement, the party approved the expulsion owing to anti-party activities and other grave offences in violation of the constitution of the PDP as amended in 2017. Others expelled from the party include Chris Ogbu, Imo State; Ajijola Oladimeji, Ekiti Central; Olayinka Olarele, Ekiti Central 2; Fayose John, Ekiti Central 1; Akerele Oluyinka, Ekiti North 1; and Emiola Jennifer, Ekiti South 2. In another development, the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria have lamented the rate at which the country is losing its professional nurses and midwives to foreign countries. The council disclosed that over 14,000 nurses had left Nigeria for greener pastures in many countries across the world. The Secretary General and Registrar of the Council, Dr. Farouk Abubakar, disclosed this at the opening of a retreat for top management of the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria in Akure, the Ondo State capital. He noted that part of the strategies to curb the migration of nurses in the country is to increase the admission quota in schools, grant approval for the establishment of more colleges of nursing, and accredit nursing departments in eligible universities in the country. On security matters, in continuation with the onslaught against banditry, kidnapping, terrorism and other criminal activities in the northwestern part of the country, troops of 1 Division Nigerian Army and Air Component Operation Well Punch dealt massive blow on criminal elements. In an operation that lasted for about 48 hours, troops reportedly cleared Manini, Kuriga, Farin, Ruwa, Kwanan, Yashi, Makera, Dogon Dawa, Maidaro Road, Kidanda, Yadi Forest and Sabon Benin, all in Beningwari local government area, and Dogon Dawa, Kidanda and Ingiwa local government area of Kaduna State. Reports say during the encounter, troops engaged the criminals with heavy and superior firepower, capturing one AK-47 rifle with quantity 20 rounds of 7.62 mm special, 6 motorcycles, and neutralized 4 bandits, while others escaped with gunshot wounds. Still to come in the news. UK economy avoids recession, but not out of the woods just yet. Do stay with us.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Ibro.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court, my lord.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Many thanks for staying tuned. Now in Africa, East African Community EAC leaders have been urged to fast-track the deployment of additional troops in the regional force deployed to Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, a mediator for the East African Community EAC, says more troops need to take up positions in areas where armed groups have been withdrawn. Kenyatta expressed concern over the deteriorating security situation in North Kivu province, where M23 rebels have clashed with security forces in recent weeks. Still in Africa now, the European Union ambassador to Rwanda has reportedly announced €22 million in renewed funding till 2026 in support of the country's hosting of refugees transferred from Libya. In 2019, Rwanda signed an agreement with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, to evacuate refugees and asylum seekers in need of international protection from Libya to Rwanda. Since September 2019, the UNHCR has evacuated about 1,500 refugees and asylum seekers from Libya, and while more than 900 have since left Rwanda to resettle in other countries, the majority in European Union countries, including Sweden, France, Belgium, and Finland.
And I was just saying that the financing part, the resource, is something that without which we couldn't do much. So when these people are evacuated from Libya, where they are going through tremendous trauma, they arrive here in Rwanda, that have given the space for them to find security first, to be able to be assessed and see how we can find a durable solution for them. I think it's a very great step that we have achieved.
So I think that this is a very significant support. It really is an expression of our commitment to support these initiatives, and we will continue assessing the needs and seeing how best we can be part of the solution. And I think that, yes, to be working and supporting some of the African solutions to that situation.
Elsewhere now, Somalia has reopened its embassy in the UK after 32 years in a ceremony attended by Ambassador Abdul Kader Ahmed Khair, Olympic champion Mo Farah, and Somali-Canadian model Sabrina Dore, among others. The embassy in London is expected to provide consular services to the nearly 500,000-strong diaspora community in the UK who are eligible for Somali citizenship, and other services including travel documentation and marriage certificates. It will also host cultural and other informative events. Ambassador Khair said that reopening the embassy was a positive step in strengthening UK-Somali relations. Recall that the Somali embassy in London was officially closed in 1991 following the collapse of the central government. In the meantime, though, a court in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, has placed an injunction order against breakaway clergy, banning them from entering churches after the main Christian Orthodox Church filed a petition. The restrictions also include more than 20 bishops appointed by the splinter clergy, the federal police and local police in Oromia region, where clashes have been reported. Meanwhile, the government-affiliated rights watchdog Ethiopian Human Rights Commission (EHRC) accused security forces of using excessive force against followers of the main church. The commission said today 8 people were killed in Shashamene town in Oromia, but warned the number could increase as its investigations continue. Meanwhile, as of today, Morocco no longer has an ambassador to France, as no successor was appointed to replace Mohammed Ben Charbon, whose departure was announced last month by the North African nation. Morocco has not stated why it took this step, but many suspect it was in backlash to a European Parliament resolution voted on the same day, calling on the Moroccan authorities to respect press freedoms. Meanwhile, some people in Morocco have accused France of having orchestrated an anti-Moroccan campaign at the European Union. On the foreign scene, at least 21,000 people have been reportedly killed in Turkey and Syria earthquake, and rescuers are still in search for survivors, as the United States offered an $85 million aid package. The first UN aid deliveries arrived in Syrian rebel-held zones, but chances of finding survivors have dimmed since the passing of the 3-day mark that experts consider a critical period to save lives. Meanwhile, the U.S. Agency for International Development, in a statement, said its aid package will go to partners on the ground to deliver urgently needed aid for millions of people, including food, shelter, and emergency health services. It will also support safe drinking water and sanitation to prevent the outbreak of diseases. On the foreign scene now, the United Nations Rights Chief has today called for an immediate ceasefire in Syria to help facilitate bringing aid to all victims of the region's devastating earthquake. The death toll from Monday's catastrophic earthquakes in Turkey and Syria surpassed 22,000 today. Officials and medics said more than 22,000 people were killed by Monday's successive earthquakes in Turkey and Syria, with the death toll in Turkey alone nearing 19,000. According to reports, hopes of finding more survivors were rapidly fading as rescuers continued to search through the rubble, with freezing conditions now threatening the lives of thousands of survivors left without food or shelter. Meanwhile, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has called the quakes the disaster of the century, acknowledging shortcomings after criticisms of his government's response. Meanwhile, following Monday's earthquake in Turkey, no fewer than 7,000 relief workers from 61 countries are in the country to help in the search and rescue efforts. The quakes at the Syrian-Turkish border area have so far claimed the lives of more than 22,000 people in both countries, according to reports. Now, according to Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, there were an overall of 141,000 Turkish and foreign rescue workers on site. In the meantime, emergency workers in southern Turkey have rescued a 10-year-old boy from a collapsed house 4 days after an earthquake caused devastation across large parts of the country's border with Syria. According to Israel Defense Force IDF, the boy had been trapped under the rubble in the town of Kahramanmaraş for more than 100 hours. In a related development, Kurdish militants from the outlawed PKK group announced a temporary halt in fighting to ease recovery work in the wake of a massive earthquake that struck southeastern Turkey and parts of Syria. The Kurdistan Workers' Party PKK has been proscribed as a terrorist organization by Ankara and its Western allies for waging a brutal insurgency that has claimed tens of thousands of lives since 1984. Ankara is also trying to ban a top opposition party that supports Kurdish causes over its alleged links to the militants. But Monday's earthquake has the potential to reshape the political landscape, while claiming nearly 23,000 lives, more than 19,000 of them in Turkey. Elsewhere now, Russian forces struck critical infrastructure in Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city, and launched multiple strikes on energy infrastructure in Zaporizhzhia early today, as Moscow stepped up its attacks in Ukraine's south and east, and air raid sirens went off across much of the country. Kiev says it shot down 61 out of 71 missiles fired by Russian forces. Meanwhile, a group of 35 countries, including the United States, Germany, and Australia, will demand that Russian and Belarusian athletes are banned from the 2024 Olympics. The Lithuanian sports minister said today, deepening the uncertainty over the Paris Games. The move cranks up the pressure on an International Olympic Committee (IOC) that is desperate to avoid what is arguably the world's biggest sporting event being torn asunder by the bloody conflict unfolding in Ukraine. On the foreign scene now, the Ukrainian Air Force says Russian forces struck Ukraine's southern Zaporizhia city and the northeastern Kharkiv region with dozens of missiles. The Air Force said on its Facebook page that Russia attacked Kharkiv region and Zaporizhia region with up to 35 S-300 surface-to-air missiles that cannot be destroyed in the air with the air defense. The agency added that Russian forces also fired C-300 surface-to-air missiles from across the border in Belgorod and from the occupied city of Tormak in southern Ukraine. Now it's time for the latest business and stock market stories. We have Blyden Ukem standing by.
Thank you, Xavier Roberts. Good evening. It's business news and my name is Blyden Ukem. The UK narrowly avoided falling into recession in 2022, according to latest data, after the economy saw zero growth between October and December. This is despite a sharp 0.5% fall in economic output during December, partly due to strike action, according to the Office for National Statistics. Chancellor Jeremy Hunt said the figures showed underlying resilience, but they were not out of the woods. The Bank of England still expects the UK to enter recession this year, but thinks it will be shorter and less severe than previously forecast. In Japan, the Japanese yen cut half of its gain to settle at 131 after strengthening nearly 1% to 130 per US dollars earlier today, as investors were digesting the unexpected appointment of the economist Kazuo Ueda as Bank of Japan governor. Investors welcome Ueda's appointment as he is expected to adopt a more hawkish approach. However, Ueda also commented that the central bank's current easy monetary policy was appropriate and that it should continue. The central bank recently defied speculations about another policy adjustment by maintaining its ultra-low interest rates and leaving its yield control policy unchanged. In Nigeria, the federal government of Nigeria has directed depot operators to sell premium motor spirit PMS, also known as petrol, at the official price of 172 naira per litre to independent marketers. This follows the supply of over 150 million litres of petrol to the Ijegun tank, the tank farm in Lagos State, which accounts for up to 35% of national consumption volume, making it critical in ending the distribution crisis. Officials of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority gave this directive while on site inspecting the Ijegun tank farm today. Therefore, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, will now get petrol at the ex-depot price of 172 naira per litre. This will enable them to sell petrol at 184 naira per litre in the west and south, or 194 naira in the northern part of the country, as approved by the regulator. It's time for the Nigerian stock market reports. The equity capitalization in the Nigerian capital market crashed by a negative 0.05% at the close of trading today. This represented a 17.7 billion naira dip in the market capitalization from 29.6 trillion naira to 29.59 trillion naira after hours of trading. The all-share index dropped by 32.6 basis points to close at 54,327.3 points. Investors traded 175.66 million shares, valued at 5.32 billion naira in 3,563 deals. Triple G led the gainers list with a 12 kobo rise in share price moving from 1 naira 25 kobo to 1 naira 35 kobo per share. International Energy Insurance topped the losers table after shedding 13 kobo to drop from 1 naira 37 kobo to 1 naira 24 kobo per share. First Bank Nigeria Holding led the day's trading with 30.22 million shares valued at 357.15 million naira. This is all on business news. I'm back to Xavier Robert for the rest of the news.
Many thanks, Blyden. Still to come in the news. Kevin Durant traded to Phoenix Suns as Russell Westbrook joins Utah Jazz. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying tuned. But now in health, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, NESG, have signed a memorandum of understanding with the United Nations Children's Fund to address the menace surrounding poverty and rights violations among children in Nigeria. The partnership, which was officially signed at the launch of the NESG UNICEF MOU and partnership to tackle child rights infringement and poverty in Abuja, will receive support from the federal government. Speaking at the partnership, the group chairman, Niyi Yusuf, said that children remain a vital part of the mandate of the group and believe that urgent action is required to ensure that they do the right thing to promote the development of Nigerian children. He added that Nigerian children represent the asset of the country, stressing that it is important that they invest and plan to ensure that these children become the leaders of tomorrow. In health, the federal government has said it is determined to eradicate the circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus type 2 in 2023. The federal government also said 96% of the local government areas in the country have achieved 100% in the outbreak response against the circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus type 2. The Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the National Primary Health Care Development Agency, Dr. Faisal Shoaib, said this at the Northern Traditional Leaders Committee on Primary Health Care Development Delivery Review meeting in Abuja. He said the lower the population immunity, the longer these viruses survive, and the longer they survive, the more they replicate, change, and exchange genetic material with other enteroviruses as they spread through a community. In sports now, two-time NBA champion Kevin Durant has joined the Phoenix Suns in a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. The 34-year-old will boost an already impressive Suns lineup featuring all-star guards Chris Paul and Devin Booker, as well as center DeAndre Ayton, who was the top pick in the 2018 draft. The Suns also acquired T.J. Warren, with the Nets receiving Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and 4 first-round picks. Reports say Russell Westbrook has moved to the Utah Jazz from the Los Angeles Lakers. The point guard, who struggled for form in 2 difficult seasons with the Lakers, departed in a 3-team, 8-player deal before Thursday's trade deadline. In sports now, British number 1 Emma Raducanu has been awarded a wild card for Indian Wells next month. The 20-year-old who won the 2021 US Open missed the cut for direct entry to the women's main draw after her world ranking slipped to 80th. According to reports, she has not played since her defeat by American teenager Coco Gauff in the Australian Open second round. Fellow Britons Andy Murray and Cameron Norrie have been included in the men's singles draw. Meanwhile, American Taylor Fritz and Poland's Iga Swiatek will defend their titles in California, while Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal are also on the entry list despite question marks over their participation due to his COVID-19 vaccination status. Well, number 1, Djokovic, a 5-time Indian Wells champion, cannot currently enter the United States. Meanwhile, Chelsea have reached an agreement to extend Thiago Silva's contract for another 12 months. The contract extension for the 38-year-old is expected to last till June 2024. Recall that the legendary centre-back moved to Stamford Bridge from Paris Saint-Germain in 2020. The Brazilian star has won the 2020-2021 UEFA Champions League, 2021 UEFA Super Cup and 2021 FIFA Club World Cup since joining the Blues. He represented Brazil at last year's World Cup, playing 4 times, and has featured 24 times already this term for the Blues. And on entertainment news now, acclaimed Spanish director Carlos Saura, who died today, hit the global spotlight in the 1960s with critics of Franco's dictatorship, later focusing on films about music and dance, notably flamenco, often referred to as a giant of Spanish cinema. Alongside Luis Buñuel and Pedro Almodóvar, Saura made about 50 films over a career spanning 5 decades. Saura was born on January 4, 1932 in the northeastern town of Huesca to a family of artists. His mother was a pianist and his brother Antonio, who would become a well-known painter in his youth. He developed a love of photography before following cinema studies. He first won international recognition with The Hunt, 1966. His critique of the regime of dictator Francisco Franco, which won the Silver Bear, the second highest award at the Berlin Film Festival. Still in entertainment now, popular Nigerian singer Seun Kuti has stated that he was a fool when he campaigned for the former governor of Lagos State, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in 1999. Seun stated this in a trending video shared on his Instagram page to address his alleged support for the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC. Seun, who is the youngest son of the Afrobeat pioneer Fela Anikulapo Kuti, said he was young and naive when he campaigned for Tinubu, the then Lagos governor. Meanwhile, Nollywood actress Angela Okorie has dragged her junior colleagues in the film industry for lying about their sources of income. Angela Okorie claimed that the majority of these braggadocios by young actresses are lies, allegedly. Further denouncing these young actresses, Angela warned them to stop making such an impression. According to her, it portrays the senior actresses as being lazy. Lastly, on entertainment tonight, Nollywood movie legend Nkem Owo, popularly known as Oswafia, has described Nigerian movies as stories as far better than that of their Bollywood and Hollywood counterparts. Oswafia made the remark in an interview in Enugu. According to him, Nigerian movies present real-life stories and happenings around them, noting that it is wrong to compare the quality of Nigerian films with those coming from the advanced countries. He said that Nigerian film producers were only using technology imported from such advanced countries to improve their movies. The actor called for patience among upcoming actors, saying they should follow their progress gradually. That's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert, wishing you a terrific weekend and have a good night rest. Bye-bye.